Welcome back to the fourth episode of Know the Player, Tell the Story, hosted by me, Dante Furco. You may know these players, but do you know their stories and how they got to where they are now? I'm going to dig deeper and find more about these athletes and how being a New York State athlete shaped them. Today, I am joined alongside Danielle Rauch of the Michigan women's basketball team, as well as former basketball player for the Ludding Gaelic Knights here in Syracuse, New York. All right, so I'm here with Danielle Rauch. Danielle, let's take it back to the beginning when you first started getting into sports. Was basketball the first sport you fell in love with?
Yeah, it definitely was. My dad runs the pastimes program, the youth program over there. So I picked up a basketball probably when I was 4 years old. And I played a bunch of sports along with basketball growing up. But I kind of just always gravitated towards basketball, and it was the one that, I felt most passionate about.
You mentioned you played other sports. What other sports did you play?
Geez, I played soccer. I tried lacrosse. I played travel softball. So I was like playing AAU and travel softball at the same time. Um, I did golf for a minute. I wanted to try a bunch of different things.
Did you take any other sports as seriously as you did basketball?
No, I guess like up until I guess softball was the other one that I was like more serious about, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really like a tough decision to pick basketball over softball.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned it a little bit, but with your dad. But how did you get pushed into basketball?
I just think, being from a basketball family, my dad obviously played at Lemoyne College, played for Coach Beeline there. So he had a really great experience, got to play a little bit professionally overseas. And then having my brother, be, my dad's first son and get into basketball as well, it was kind of like a no-brainer that like I was gonna play basketball one way or another. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really forced on me to like stick with it and, have it turn into, what I loved, but it was hard for it not to happen, I guess, with, the influences that I had around me.
Mm-hmm. Given your brother played, how competitive were you two growing up playing basketball against each other?
Yeah, growing up, competitive is like, I wish there was like a word stronger than competitive because it was like a step above that. But especially when we were like younger. And then once we got
Mm-hmm.
a little bit older, my brother, my genetics kind of got messed up. My brother is like 6'7", so there like came a point where he was like significantly taller and larger than me, and I just like physically could not like score over him.
Mm-hmm.
So it would turn into like screaming matches of like this isn't fair, like how am I supposed to ever win? But like as we got older, like it became less of like a competition and more of like
Mm-hmm.
together, like just like getting each other better and like wanting to see each other do well.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a similar question. Is like, how did you push each other to get better?
Yeah. I think, he had a great career at Ludden and then had a grad year at Blair Academy. And I think that's when he really was like, I want to play like college basketball. And, I had been on the AAU circuit for a minute. So once I started getting recruited, it was kind of like, wow, this could like be a reality for the both of us. So, we started like working out together a little bit and shooting
Mm-hmm.
together. And just things like that, like bouncing, things off each other about things from our game and just like breaking things down to kind of help each other. And like that's not to say it still wasn't very frustrating, when we would work out together and do things together if one of us was shooting better than the other or something like that. But it definitely, it happened, as we got older and started getting recruited.
Mm-hmm. So growing up, what was your dream? Was it to always play Division I basketball?
Yeah, definitely. I think from an early age, like once I started playing AAU in fifth grade. Um, and I had my like bestest friends that I played with. They all kind of went to JD. And we all kind of were like that. Like we were like, "Ooh, ball is life. Like let's go. Like we want to go to like UConn, Notre Dame. Like let's get it done." Kind of thing. So like growing up, I definitely wanted to play Division I basketball, but like thinking back on it and thinking about like how innocent that thought was, then when I came to like freshman, sophomore year and I was actually like getting letters from colleges, it was like
Hmm.
surreal because it was, like, something I always thought of, but then, like, once it actually happens, it's like you don't really appreciate the innocence of, like, that dream, back in the day.
Hmm. That's awesome that you set a goal and a dream for yourself, and I mean you ended up accomplishing it. But growing up, you're figuring out, what kind of basketball player you are. Would you say you modeled your game after anybody?
Man, I don't know that I model my game after anybody in particular. Like I always grew up watching, Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird. So like just
Hmm.
the way that they're kind of like floor generals and leaders. Um, I I just like picked up, I think like intangible things that they did that I wanted to do in my game and just like being the hardest worker on the court and like running the show. More than like, trying to model like specific moves or like a style of play necessarily.
Hmm. Cool, cool. So you touched on it a little bit before with your brother and working together and kind of realizing you could make it. What point was there a point, moment, or game where you sort of realized, hey, I have the potential to play Division 1 basketball?
Yeah, it comes back the my freshman year on AAU comes back to my mind. I was playing on a 17U team for the Albany City Rocks, and we were at Boo Williams, which is like a pretty famous AAU tournament. That's where like all the coaches are. It's like EYBL is like the Nike circuit, so I was playing for that.
Hmm.
Um, and so I was like young, but I was like playing a lot and I started playing really well. And after that tournament, I got like a bunch of letters from like pretty like big time schools. And at the time, like, you think a letter like means everything. So, getting those letters, it was like, wow, like people are like recognizing me, like this could like actually be a thing.
Hmm.
And then, over time, like coaches would reach out and, want to come see open gyms and like things like that. So I think that's kind of when it became more of a reality. And I was like, wow, like this could, I could potentially, end up playing Division 1 basketball.
Hmm. That's awesome. What other colleges, obviously other than Michigan, were most active in recruiting you?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Michigan came kind of late. I was definitely like a highly recruited mid-major player from a lot of those, mid-major
Hmm.
and lower D1 schools. St. Joe's in Philly was a big one that was after me for a while. A lot of the A10 schools, pretty much all the A10 schools. Wisconsin, it kind of came down to Michigan and Wisconsin just because I really liked, you know, the thought of the Big Ten and those bigger schools.
Hmm.
So those were just a few of those, yeah.
So why did you ultimately end up committing to Michigan?
There was just when you, like, go through this process and maybe not everybody, like, got this feeling, but, like, for the longest time, I was, like, waiting to go somewhere and, like, make it feel like home, like, have, like, an actual genuine feeling, like, "Wow, I feel like I
Hmm.
belong here." And I visited a ton of places and, college campuses are ridiculous, when you're a sophomore in high school and, seeing facilities and gyms, it was just like, "Wow, this is incredible." And it was like that for every place that I went,
Hmm.
but I never got, like, the feeling that I got when I was at Michigan, being at Michigan and being around what the culture at Michigan, wants to do and achieve. It was like kind of unmatched. I was just like, I feel like I can't turn away from this. Like there isn't any place else that I got this feeling at, so there has to be a reason. That was kind of the
Hmm.
ultimate thing. Like after I visited Michigan, I was driving home with my dad. I hadn't committed there. I was like, I still want to like think about it. Like going to Michigan is like a really big decision. It's going to be really challenging. But I was just like, I feel like this is a place for me. And once you put it in perspective, like the University of Michigan, both academically and athletically, I was like, how do I turn this down?
Yeah. Do you remember exactly when you committed to Michigan?
Yes. It was in June. Geez, it must have been like 2017. I had been once before and just like to visit with my dad, like not like kind of scheduling it with the coaches or anything.
Hmm.
Just to look around and it was like cool. I liked it. But then I scheduled a visit to come on an unofficial with the coaches. And after that, it was just like, oh, I was like, I need to come here. It was my dad and
Hmm.
I like kind of tell this story. So we like talked. I think they thought I was going to commit there because like we were like talking, and they're like, yeah, yeah. And then
Mhm.
I was just like, no, like I need some more. They're like, okay, so like, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna like go home and like rest on it a little bit more. Like I still got time, like I'm just a junior, like I can figure it out. And then like my dad and I are in the car because we drove, which is like an 8-hour drive. So I definitely had some time to
Mhm.
think. But not even like 30 minutes later, I'm sitting there and I'm like, Dad, like I think I want to call them and tell them I want to come. So I called them on the phone and it was like through my dad's speaker on the Bluetooth. And I was just like, hey, like, you know, I wanted to think about it a little bit more, but there's no point. Like I want to come to Michigan, and it was
Mhm.
like my dad was like crying, and I know you've seen my dad before, and a lot of people know my dad, and I don't think he's a very emotional guy, but he's such a softie, and it was just like he was getting emotional, and it was a really cool experience, like be able to have that feeling and be with my dad in that
Mhm.
moment.
Yeah, I think it's always amazing hearing, the moment people commit. Like I've talked to other people on this podcast as well as just in conversation and just hearing their story of, the moment they were like, I know this is my school. So
Mhm.
I think that's really cool. So you mentioned you committed junior year, heading into senior year.
Mhm.
That senior year season, how much pressure was on you to kind of perform and live up to the Division 1 status?
Yeah, more than I realized, in the moment, like, definitely looking back on it, I had, like, a lot of frustration senior year of when, I wasn't performing well because I was like, people like, I'm going to Michigan, like,
Hmm.
not many people from our area are going to, like, big schools, like, I need to, like, prove myself that, like, I am good enough to go to Michigan, like, that I am a Big Ten player, so that pressure, like whether I recognized it in the moment or not, definitely played a role in like my performance senior year, I think. And which was like not disappointing because like I had, a great year and obviously finished out Ludden really well.
Hmm.
But thinking back on it, I definitely think, and it was more so pressure that I was putting on myself because I was like worried about, all those outside voices. And, when Michigan comes to see me play, like I need to be like perfect. Like I need to make sure they know that they made the right choice kind of thing.
Hmm.
So there definitely was some pressure in that aspect.
Yeah. So fast forward to your time at Michigan. You're currently in season. Your team is 8-1 and ranked. How is this team different from any other teams you've played on in your time at Michigan?
Jeez. This is like kind of an obvious answer, but it's the first thing that's coming to my mind. Like the biggest difference is like I'm a senior. Like it's so weird that my class is like the leaders of the team and that we're the seniors. Like, as a senior, you have to be in charge. Like, even as juniors, sophomores, freshmen, like you're always looking to other people. Like you don't have to make the decisions. You just have to like follow
Hmm.
what you're being told to do. And now we have to be the people telling everyone else what to do. So, it's like a blessing and a challenge. But like I think we're like experienced in that sense of we have like a core group of upperclassmen, but at the same time we're like young. So
Hmm.
having this like balance of experience and inexperience and like finding a way to like, get time outside of basketball to connect with one another and like build that team chemistry has been really important. But I think one thing about this team is like a Big Ten championship is on our minds, and it's always been on our minds, in my time here at Michigan, but it wasn't always like all that realistic. And
Hmm.
now with like the pieces that we have, it's like really realistic. So just kind of like working every day to keep that in mind that like we are able to accomplish this.
Hmm.
Continuing to keep our heads down and working hard. And I think everyone buys into that because of the upperclassmen that we have. Like we've kind of been through a lot of different stages of Michigan basketball, and we're trying to like bring it to the top. So
Yeah. And you mentioned a conference championship. Is that the only goal, you kind of have for yourself this year?
yeah, I think outside of just being a great leader, a great teammate, and doing my role as best as I can, I think that Big Ten championship is something that the seniors my freshman year wanted so bad and they deserved it.
Hmm.
It just to not have one at the University of Michigan for women's basketball is just like not okay. So, it's been
Hmm.
our goal. I think, that's my mission. Like one game at a time, one step at a time. You want to be regular season champs, you want to be Big Ten champs, and then so on and so forth. But just when we when we focus on the present and focus on one game at a time and one practice at a time, I think that's when we're at our best, and I think that's when I'm at my best. So keeping
Hmm.
that, that goal in mind, and we want to aspire to get there, but taking it one day at a time.
Awesome, awesome. So you're almost a total of 4 years into it. How is your time at Michigan been so far, both on and off the court?
Yeah, it's been incredible. I mean, this university is ridiculous. I can't even begin to say the great things about it. I think when you come to Michigan, like Michigan is in you forever. Like it's this
Hmm.
Block M travels worldwide. You see people with Michigan gear no matter where you're at. And I've come to realize the connections and the relationships that you build here are going to help you forever. And that's like at
Hmm.
any college for the most part. You build relationships with your professors and things like that. But like I'm like in class sitting next to like future like CEOs of companies and like people working, at the big three, firms. And
Hmm.
it's incredible. Like I'm sitting next to people that build apps and just like I feel like I do nothing compared to like what these people do and can accomplish. But it's like Michigan provides us with the tools to do that. And especially being a
Hmm.
student athlete here, we have, the ability to network with so many people and get, career fairs and things like that, even though it really is challenging to get internships and do those kind of things as a student athlete.
Yeah.
Those opportunities are made for us and provided to us. So in that sense, like I just feel so well equipped to like get into the real world following graduation because of like everything Michigan has, taught me and done for me.
Hmm.
And on the court, just my 4 years have been like a roller coaster in some senses, but, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't change a thing about it. And, after seeing the football team win the Big Ten championship, everyone's posting those who stay, those who stay. Like it really
Hmm.
is true. And I really always felt that, like, freshman year not playing, sophomore year not playing, even some of junior year not playing. I was just like, there is a reason that I'm here. I belong here. Like I know that things are going to work out the way that they're supposed to. So just keeping that in mind. I mean, I've made some of my greatest friends, people that I'll, love and care about forever, especially my classmates. So I definitely wouldn't trade that for the world.
Yeah. So what does your future hold? What are your plans for after college? Yeah.
Yeah, after college, shock, I want to continue staying in basketball.
Hmm.
That's kind of the plan right now. I'm getting my degree in exercise science. And like sports medicine has kind of always been interesting to me. But I'm just like so passionate about the game of basketball. I really, really want to coach.
Hmm.
So hopefully getting a graduate assistant position somewhere, potentially a different school, just to get like a different viewpoint of like a
Hmm.
program, a coaching style, things like that, conference even, so that is kind of the goal right now. And, after graduate assistant, kind of going wherever that takes me and, what the next step from there might be.
Hmm. Do you have any interest in being in Syracuse doing that, or would you prefer to be, out of region, out of state?
Yeah. I mean, my process about it right now is kind of just like I have to go wherever will take me kind of thing. So I
Hmm.
don't really have a preference. But I do think about like how it would be cool to be closer to home sometimes. Just because my family does come to some games, but it's not as
Hmm.
easy driving 8 hours to Michigan as it would be if I was on the East Coast. So, you know, if the East Coast option presented itself, might be fun.
Yeah. So I've had conversations with multiple people on the podcast, and they always say being a New York State athlete, you had to work 10 times harder. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of like the culture of it, like when I think about the players that have come out of New York State too, it's kind of like we're all kind of like grinders, like you had to not you had to work your way up and you had to put a lot of work in to get to where you're at when I think about,
Hmm.
all the athletes, not even just basketball players, in a sense, So, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to do just some rapid fire questions at you. You can answer them in length or just quickly.
Okay.
So to start, favorite thing to do in Syracuse?
Um, Outside of hanging out with my family, probably getting food. Like
That's a perfect lead up to the next one, because favorite place to eat in Syracuse.
probably Possibilities or Francesca's.
That's funny because that's become a common answer to that question. 1-on-1, you versus your brother, who's winning?
Me.
I like the confidence. Who are you most looking forward to play this season?
Baylor rematch.
Okay.
16 rematch.
Is it colder in New York or Michigan?
It's colder in Michigan. It snows more in New York.
Yeah, we just got some snow last night.
Yeah.
At Michigan, which color jerseys are your favorite to wear?
Blue.
And last but not least, who in the WNBA or NBA is your favorite player to watch?
WNBA would be Diana Taurasi. NBA, Steph Curry.
I like both answers. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. That pretty much wraps it up, everything here. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah. Good luck to you this season. I look forward to seeing you on the court for Michigan. And that is all on Know the Player, Tell the Story. I'm Dante Furco, and we'll see you next time.